War is not only won with bullets and bombs. Sometimes it is won with lies. In 1943, as the world burned under World War II, the Allies prepared to strike Nazi-occupied Europe. Millions of lives depended on one question: where would the invasion come from? Germany watched the seas. Spies listened in neutral countries. Hitler waited for the inevitable blow. What he never expected was that the most powerful weapon would be a dead man. A body dressed as a British officer, a briefcase chained to his wrist, and documents so convincing they would redirect entire German armies. This was not a battle fought on beaches. It was a battle fought in shadows, with deception, psychology, and absolute silence.
The year is 1943. For nearly 4 years, the world has been at a breaking point. From the moment the first German panzers crossed the Polish border in 1939, the Nazi war machine seemed unstoppable. France has fallen. The British were pushed to the very edge of the sea at Dunkirk, and across the Atlantic, the United States has been dragged into the furnace of a global total war. By early 43, the tide is finally beginning to turn, but only just. The Germans have been bled dry at the frozen ruins of Stalingrad, and the desert fox, Erwin Rommel, is retreating across the sands of North Africa. The Allies had almost won the North African campaign. The next logical step was to invade southern Europe through the Mediterranean. The Allies were preparing for Operation Husky to invasion of Sicily. Sicily was the first step to Italy, then Europe. But it was not very easy. Hitler has turned Europe into a fortress. Every beach is a death trap. Every cliff is lined with heavy artillery. The most obvious door into that fortress is the island of Sicily. The Nazis know it. The Allies know it. And if the British and Americans land there now, they will be walking into a massacre. To move into Europe, they needed to take Sicily. Because it was the most obvious target, Winston Churchill remarked, "Anyone but a damn fool would know it is Sicily." The Germans knew it too. They began massing troops there. The Allies needed a way to make the obvious target look like a distraction and make a distraction look like the real target. Two intelligence officers, Ewan Montague and Charles Cholmondale, took inspiration from a memo likely written by Ian Fleming, the future creator of Ian Bond. The idea was simple but macabre. Provide the Germans with a corpse carrying secret documents. But it couldn't just be anybody. It had to be a convincing character that could survive the scrutiny of German spies.
The first time he died, he was Glyndor Michael, a lonely, homeless man in London with no family, no money, and no future. He ended his life in a cold warehouse by eating rat poison. But the second time he died, he was Major William Martin, a hero of the British Empire, a fiancé, and the man who would single-handedly fool Adolf Hitler. Operation Mincemeat was one of the most successful and ingenious deception operations of World War II. They didn't just need a body, they needed a soul. They knew that German spies were experts at spotting fakes. "We need him to be human," Montague whispered. They began by dressing him. They chose a Royal Marines uniform, but there was a catch. A new uniform looked suspicious. So for weeks, Montague wore the dead man's boots and uniform around his own office, scuffing the leather and fraying the threads until they looked like they had been lived in by a busy officer. They gave him a fiancée named Pam. They tucked a photo of a beautiful girl into his wallet and wrote fake tear-stained love letters. In one letter, Pam complained about his long hours at the office. In another, they hinted at a lover's quarrel. To prove he was serious about her, they slipped a receipt for a diamond engagement ring into his pocket, a ring he would never get to give her. A perfect man is a suspicious man. To make Major Martin believable, they made him messy. They put a stern letter from his bank in his pocket, demanding he pay off his overdraft. They added a letter from his father, a grumpy man complaining about the war. They even gave him a set of overdue theater tickets, suggesting he had spent his last night in London enjoying a play with Pam before being called away to the front lines. By the time they were done, Major William Martin wasn't a corpse anymore. He was a son, a lover, and a soldier. On a moonless night in April 1943, the submarine HMS Seraph surfaced off the coast of Spain. The crew brought a large canister onto the deck. Only the captain knew what was inside. There lay the major, his skin pale, a briefcase chained to his wrist as if he were protecting his secrets even in death. The captain read a short prayer from the Bible. With a gentle push, the man who never was slid into the dark, freezing waters of the Atlantic.
Early morning of April 30th, 1943. A local fisherman was out on his small boat scanning the water for fishes. He saw a man, who was a British officer, floating with a life jacket. Spain was officially neutral, but many Spanish officials secretly cooperated with Nazi Germany. This made Huelva the perfect location for the deception. The body carried a briefcase handcuffed to him. Inside were apparently top-secret letters suggesting that the Allied invasion would target Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily. Spanish intelligence quietly allowed German Abwehr agents to access and photograph the documents before returning them to the British, just as British intelligence expected. The letters were returned, slightly opened and resealed, proving to British officers that the Germans had read them. The documents were sent to Berlin, where German intelligence judged them authentic. Adolf Hitler personally accepted the information as genuine. German troops were diverted to Greece and the Balkans. Defenses in Sicily were weakened. Panzer divisions and aircraft were moved away from the real invasion target. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park, reading encrypted German messages via Ultra, confirmed that Germany had fully believed the false information. Mincemeat swallowed whole by Germans. In July 1943, the Allies launched Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily. Because German forces were mispositioned, Allied troops faced less resistance, accelerating victory in Sicily. After fall of Mussolini, Italy was eventual surrender. The body belonged to Glyndwr Michael, a Welsh homeless man who had died earlier in London. He was buried under the name William Martin. Years later, the truth was revealed, and his grave now honors both names. Don't forget to subscribe our channel.